Right, time to settle an ongoing debate down in the comments every episode at the moment. It seems that in 2023, fourth place in the SPL does indeed get you Europa League qualification. Hello and welcome to Season 7, Part 8, Non-League to Legend. I'm Kev, and coming up on today's episode, we've got our final two games of the season, away against Hibs and at home against Rangers. Since you were last with me, we've played the first three games of the Championship group to close out the end of the SPL season. We lost to Celtic, but then beat Hearts and Dundee, and that was enough to secure us a place in the Europa League. If you want proof, there it is. So, fourth place in the SPL does indeed get us Europa League qualification for next season. And also to clarify the bit about the Scottish Cup, which Hamilton won last year before I was manager. If we have a look on the season preview, you'll see that we definitely didn't have Europa League football this season. It wasn't that we were knocked out in an early round before I arrived. So I guess none of the cup competitions in Scotland carry Europa League spots anymore. Although weirdly, why are Aberdeen and Queen of the South? I guess maybe they finished higher. I don't understand. I don't get it. In fact, an easy way. Does it tell you, if you go on the rules, does it tell me who qualifies for Europe? No. Oh, here we go. Fifth place also gets you into the Europe. So that's where Aberdeen, depending on winner of Scottish Cup. Then I don't understand, because we won the Scottish Cup last season. If you want proof of that, hold on. I thought we had proof of that. Did we not win that last year? Hang about. No, we did win that last year. The year before last. There you go. Can't read a calendar properly. All makes sense now. So it looks like there's 5 European spots in Scotland at this point in the future. And I guess the top 4 go to the top 4 in the league, and then 5th place potentially as well, depending on who wins the Scottish Cup. It all makes sense now. We can stop worrying about it and get on with the matches. So the team for the first of today's 2 games, this one against Hibs, is this. We've got Miguel in goal. Back 4 of Harfield, Jackson, McIntosh and Hendry, with Cash, Doherty and Hamilton in midfield, and Logan in behind Burkhart and Knox. That is as close as we've got to a settled first 11 now. I think they are my first choice 11 players. Certainly some places for us to strengthen over the summer. I'm not particularly happy with either of the fullbacks, and I think we probably need a proper ball-winning midfielder, and we need to try and sign Norberto Miguel permanently, or at the very least get him on loan for another season. He's been excellent this year, but the fact he's been so good at a higher level than what we were playing at last year with Southend when he was with us on loan, and he was a bit rubbish, but now he's playing at a higher level. We've just conceded a goal, but who cares, because we're already in Europe. It doesn't really matter at this point. Part of me does think he's developed so much that Man United might have plans for him, so we might not be able to. So I'm worried we're not going to be able to sign him permanently. I'd like to think we'll be able to pick him up on loan for another year, because I can't imagine he's ready to go into the Man United first team. I'm not sure whether they'd rather have him playing for us in the SPL for another season, or sat on their bench for a year, which I guess is the alternative, unless maybe there's an English Premier League club who want to take him on loan and give him a season's experience in the Premier League. I guess as Man United manager, you'd rather he did that than another year in the SPL. So it's a bit up in the air what we're going to do about the goalkeeper, but I think we're still got good coverage at centre-back. Certainly attacking-wise, our midfield is good. We just need someone in there with a little bit more defensive oomph. At the moment, we're playing an attacking playmaker as a ball-winning midfielder in Gary Doherty. Burkhart's just hit the post. Someone said in the comments yesterday, I think it was, the day before, that he's missing a lot of chances lately. And there he is, missing another chance. Someone is after him as well, so he might not stick around next year. I think what I'd quite like to do is sign a proper defensive forward to play alongside Knox. Doherty does score the penalty, so it's back to 1-1. We've kind of got away with it a little bit this year because we were never going to finish higher than sort of upper mid-table. But we're playing 2 very attacking strikers together, and our 2 backups are also both attacking strikers in Hardy and Babos. I think we need more of a link player between the 2. And I'm also toying with the idea of signing a couple of wingers so that we can do a more defensive system when we go away from home to the likes of Rangers and Celtic, just to try and avoid getting thumped quite so often by those teams. I mean, we're 11 points behind Hibs at the moment, so converting those 4 or 5 losses into draws doesn't make any difference to our league position. But if we can win a couple of extra games somewhere else along the line and then start drawing away from home at those two rather than losing, then we start to creep up the league table a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I've got a shopping list. A lot depends on the kind of budget that we get made available to us. We got £6 million to spend last summer and couldn't spend it because I just couldn't find enough players to bring in. We haven't got £6 million in the bank now, so unless there's a big pile of TV money that comes into Scottish clubs at the end of the season, which there might be, we're 7 years in the future, there's more European spots, it's a bigger, more competitive league now than it is in the real life, so there might well be a pile of TV money coming to us, but I suspect we're going to be working on a smaller budget this summer, despite being in Europe, and we might find things a little bit trickier. Long term, I expect we'll only do one more season at Hamilton. It was never going to be a long-term stop on the tour. I do want to have my first shot at Europe. We've obviously not played in Europe at all yet, and the opportunity to do well in Europe, that's the sort of thing that puts you on the radar for bigger clubs elsewhere in Europe. I did win Manager of the Year as well, which is announced really early in Scotland, but that's 3 Manager of the Year awards in 4 seasons, which sooner or later, a big club's got to notice. And by the way, we just scored a goal. I was chatting to you lot though. We're talking transfers. We don't care about the result of this game, really. It's just a background for us to talk about plans for the future. So my thoughts are, one more season at Hamilton, have a little bit of a European run, see how we get on there. If it looks like we could win the league if we stay an extra year after that, then we'll probably stick around for a 3rd season and try and win the league. If we're still miles away at that point, there's not really any benefit to plugging away at a Europa League spot in the SPL for season after season. We need to move on, get the career moving forward, perhaps see what there is in Spain or Italy or Germany. We've still never managed in Germany ever, even in an offline game. So Germany might be an interesting one. And see how we end up from there. But for now, we've got a perfectly respectable draw away against Hibs, bearing in mind they completely outclassed us on the first day of the season. That shows how far we've moved on since then. And now we get to round things out with a home game against Rangers. Right, just the one change for our final game of the season. Mark Brown comes in at right back because Hendry is suspended. Other than that, we are unchanged. Normally, when there's nothing to play for at this point of the season, I do like to mix things up a little bit, have a look at some of the youngsters. We've kind of done that as the season's gone on here at Hamilton, and also we're playing Rangers. We don't really want to risk a thumping. Yes, we want to keep Norberto Miguel. That's not one of the options, is it? I've had a little look at him between the 2 games, and he's out of contract at Man United in the summer. We can't offer him a contract yet, presumably because our season's still going on. But because we're we're abroad. We're in Scotland. They're in England. I think the way free transfers work at the end of contract, maybe, is that as soon as the season's done, we should be able to offer him a deal. I mean, in theory, we should have been able to do a pre-contract back in January, shouldn't we? Or is that not a thing anymore? Either way, I'd like to think that by our next episode, he will be a permanent Hamilton Academicals player, unless, of course, Man United offer him a longer-term deal. We'll have to see. He's a very important part of the squad, and I really don't like goalkeeper shopping, which is why I've used this lad for the last 3 years, even when he was rubbish, because goalkeepers just don't come up on my scout reports ever. So to find one who looks like he's any good, it's hard to let go. We're actually in this game against Rangers. Rangers have had 1 shot, and not one of them's been on target yet, and Burkhardt has just made it 1-0. We're actually dominating Rangers, who are about to win the league, and we're beating them. And not only are we beating them, we're outplaying them. This is unheard of, and that's a nice little finish from Burkhardt. They've got a number 41 in goal, which seems a bit odd, but it looks like he was wearing the captain's armband, so I guess they're not resorted to playing a bunch of kids. I think this might be the first time during this non-Leeds Legend save that Rangers have won the SPL, by the way, from looking at the history, when I've had a nose through the history of the league, unless I've misread it the way I did the Scottish Cup thing, thinking we'd won it last year when it was the year before. I don't remember seeing Rangers on. I think Celtic have had it the last couple of years, and it was Aberdeen. There was a couple of other clubs you wouldn't expect, and Celtic, and pretty sure Rangers weren't anywhere on the list unless they won it really early on. So this could be the first time in over 10 years that Rangers have won the SPL, and we're going to spoil their party for them by beating them on the last day of the season, hopefully. Although they're coming at us here, but Hamilton gets in well with the tackle. Burkhart to Logan. Knox now, obviously the former Rangers man there, but loses out. Cross comes back in again, though, and it comes into no one in particular. And Rangers come at us again. But Brown, considering this is only his 4th start of the season, he's made some important tackles down that side, and that was an example of why we might be looking to move Burkhart on, or at least play him as our backup attacking striker to Knox, because he's just a little bit lightweight, doesn't work hard enough for a defensive forward. He lost the ball there that started this move off, and after praising Brown, it's him who lets his player sort of drift in off the left wing, and then Miguel probably should have done better with it as well. Don't praise players anymore, Kev. It makes terrible things happen to them. Right, let's make some substitutions. Even a narrow defeat against Rangers is a good result, so I'm not particularly bothered about how the next 20 minutes go. We're going to give Jim McBride a bit more game time. He's been playing a little bit more lately, and we're also going to probably bring Hopak Pan on for his final game for the club. I'm going to look to move him on in the summer. We used him a lot earlier on in the season, but he hasn't really played since Christmas time now, so I think his time with us is probably done, although I've got a feeling we put him on a 3-year contract when he first arrived, because I didn't realise we were going to end up as good as we have, and I thought, you know what, he's better than what we've got, and sign him up long term, and then we've turned out to be quite good. That might be an expensive mistake. Right, Hardy, I think we're going to switch him out and do... no, we'll keep Burkhart there. Hardy wants the opportunity to play as a proper poacher. He struggled earlier in the season when I was forcing him out there to be a defensive forward, as Burkhart has at times as well. It's why we need a proper defensive forward. Probably move Babos on and try and bring in a proper defensive forward to play alongside whoever is playing at the time, and get some competition between Knox and Burkhart and Hardy, because they've all got potential to score goals, and that is a pretty good result. We've had 2 pretty good results in this episode, and a rather successful run at the championship group. Really, I don't know why why can't we scroll down? We're only allowed to see until the end of 2022 apparently. That's a shame. But the 5 games we've played in that little spell at the end of the season there did all right. And there you go, there's your confirmation. That is the first time Rangers have won the league for 11 seasons. Had they ever gone 11 seasons without winning it before? Because that is a long, long time. There you go, Rangers have won the league. But it's not letting me scroll again. What is going on with the scrolling on here? Ridiculous. Right, does it tell us how much money we've got? It doesn't. We've got £2.4 million, isn't bad in a bit of prize money, so that's going to feel... I mean, we're still massively in debt. We're not getting anything close to £6 million to spend this summer. Let's have a quick look at the squad to see, as usual, where our highlights were. If we first sort that by goals, we can see the 2 standout men for goals were Matthew Knox and Nishan Burkhart. Burkhart is wanted by Rangers. He's still very young. He's 23 years old. We paid £725,000 for him last summer. If Rangers, I mean, he's valued at £2 million. If Rangers come in and offer £3.5 million, I think we'll happily move him on and reinvest that in 2 or 3 more players. Logan has done very well from the attacking midfield position, picked up 11 goals. He's still only 24, and bearing in mind it's his first full season playing at any kind of decent competitive level of football. That is a pretty good turnaround for him. And then Hardy, Babos. Babos has been a flop. We spent quite a lot of money on him, bringing him in from Posh. And yeah, we'll probably give him back if they want him. If we look at assists as well, Logan again doing very well. I mean, there was a few people said we needed to sign Benteke earlier in the season. £6 million, that's why we didn't. Because Logan wasn't any good. I think he's proved a few people wrong. His average rating isn't anything to write home about, but the goals and the assists that he's weighed in with, 11 goals and 12 assists, that's not to be sniffed at all. Luke Lee, he did all right early in the season. We haven't played him for the second half of the season because Harfield I ended up preferring, and we'll probably look to move him on, but he was getting some assists early on, as has Hamilton, Knox, Hendry. Hendry sort of emerged in the second half of the season at right back, and then there's Harfield down there as well. And then if we sort by average rating, that's encouraging. Young Lee McKenzie, another 18-year-old centre-back with 5-star potential. How many of these are getting produced by this football club? This is mad. Remember, we sold one last summer. McIntosh has broke into the team this year. And we've got Lee McKenzie sat there as well, who's another one on the conveyor belt. We make centre-backs here at Hamilton, apparently. As is shown by the average ratings. Jackson, centre-back, very good. Devlin, centre-back, wants to leave, might move him on. Might try and convince him to stick around to do some tutoring and stuff, but he's getting on a little bit now. He says he's only 29. But realistically, he's not going to play for us regularly anymore. He's been at Hamilton his entire career. I can see why he wants a new challenge while he's still young enough to go and try and make it somewhere else. And with Mackenzie coming through, it's probably not the worst time to look to sell him. We've still got James Chester, need to move him on. He was a waste of money. And then Knox and Hamilton are doing all right. I mean, the average rating for some of the better players is pretty weak. Burkhart, Logan, Cash, McIntosh, Doherty, Harfield, Miguel, they're all below 7 on the average rating, which is surprising, but I guess that's reflective of the fact that we weren't title challengers, we're just an upper mid-table team. So the average ratings where they've been has not been too bad. So that's your lot for this season. I will now go and play my pre-season, bring in some new players. Fingers crossed if we get any kind of money to play with. The only way I won't be at Hamilton next season is if someone comes and headhunts me and offers me a spectacular amount of money to go somewhere else. But I'm quite looking forward to the opportunity to manage in Europe for the first time at the start of season 8. That's pretty quick, starting from Gainsborough to be in Europe inside 8 seasons. I can get on board with that. If you've enjoyed that, make sure you pop a like on there for me. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. And thank you very much for watching.